Welcome to the Drapery. This is Dr. Chris Baker DC here, going over a new deck for the Pauper Commander League, Deck Tech. Going into week number 3 here. The Brago deck is obviously a lot better with the 2.0 version. Trying to update it for the 3.0 version. There were only a couple of cards that I really wanted to change, get some more card advantage in there, but really, I really just don't think it's nearly as good as this. So all the credit for the majority of the ideas and tactics in this deck go to Nate316. I played him in a practice match. He invited me to play a game against him, and I thought I previously played against the best deck in the format, and then he apparently beat the guy, Doby Shinobi, playing Child of Alara. With this deck, and this deck just seems almost strictly better. 3 colors rather than 5 makes a lot of things easier to cast, and the game plan is just so punishing. So first off, when you're playing Maelstrom Wanderer against a bunch of commons, you're basically guaranteed 3 for 1 when you play this card. Sometimes you'll hit some mana rocks and whatnot, but you just get so much value from it. So the theme of the deck is to ramp so that you can cast the commander. Beyond that, you have a very heavy disruption plan to their mana base as well, which can be really incredibly annoying. Anything else with the deck is just designed to gain card advantage and value. So let's go over the deck one by one here. So the mana base to take into account is going to be mainly base green, so green splashing red, splashing blue. The keynote of this deck is it's not playing any of the Karoo or bounce lands, mainly because they're a liability against a deck like this that can have land destruction, or against permanents that get bounced. It's like a slow way to ramp. This deck wants to ramp fast. So all the typical inclusions, Command Tower, Evolving Wilds are pretty good. Forgotten Cave are pretty good. We have one card in the deck that has incentive for lands going into our graveyard, so Terramorphic. These are all normal for 3-color decks. Tranquil Thicket and Lonely Sandbar as well for cycling. So the one card that provides value is right here. This is Tilling Treefolk. 1/3 for 3. When it enters the battlefield, you may return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Cartographer is a 2/2 for 3, but it only returns 1. And there's not that many lands that will enter the graveyard at once, so I figure Tilling Treefolk is the more value card. So it made the cut. Any utility lands other than dual lands, the guild gates and the ones that gain life, so Fodder Cliffs and guild gate and such, is just Colony Garden. Little 1/1 or 0/1 plants always on duty to block. So the main gist of the game plan is to ramp. Turn 1 we can actually start the ramping with Search for Tomorrow on Suspend, but most of our ramping is on turn 2. Now I'm not running snow-covered lands because I don't feel like buying them at 27 cents a piece, so I'm not running into the north, but I get Edge of Autumn, which is actually pretty good late game. If we already have a bunch of lands in play, then having a nice little cycler to sack our land to get back with Tilling Treefolk is another pretty sweet little combo. We do get Farseek though, which can find blue or red. Rampant Growth can find them all. Sakura Tribuilder can find them all. Coiling Oracle can hit land to ramp. Nest Invader creates a Scion. I guess, wait a second. These are not called spawns, not scions. Spawns don't have any power to speak of. And then 3 signets and a Mind Stone. So we've got plenty of ways. It's a lot of mana sources, which is why we're only running 34 land. I just had a hard time figuring out what to cut from this deck because there's so many cards I want to play. So we're just ramping Visionary on 2 to draw a card as well. So every card should create another card or replace itself or provide a really unique effect. So we do some ramping on 2. On 3 mana, we start some card draw engine. Again, on 2 mana or on 3 mana, we have Compulsive Research, and we have a few other cards that let us gain some card advantage. This card is just stupid. When you're messing with their mana base, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless they pay 1. So basically, you're putting Sphere of Resistance on everything that they cast. Otherwise, you're just going to get ahead, which is pretty much guaranteed to happen. Other cards that we're running: Cultivate, Farhaven Elf, Growth Spasm, Harrow, again helps with the Tilling Treefolk plan, Kodama's Reach, and Wood Elves. So again, just tons of mana explosion. On 4 mana, we still have some ramp, but then we start getting into the Denial plan. So this is probably the stereotypical card that this deck is built around. Destroy target land, search the library for a forest card, and put it on the battlefield tapped. So it's basically Stone Rain plus Rampant Growth, all for 4 mana, which is a really good rate. Just getting you ahead and putting them behind. Reap and Sow is another good card for that effect. Put it at the 6 mana slot, because you're basically going to do the same exact thing, except it doesn't need to be a basic. Put the card in the battlefield, and it doesn't come into play tap necessarily. What else we got? Ranger's Path. Search for 2 forests, put them on the battlefield tapped. Ondu Giant. It's a fixer and a ramper. It's basically just like Solemn Simulacrum, Kozilek's Predator gets 2 spawns in play. So yeah. So that's all we have for the additional ramp. So yeah, most of our ramp is pretty good. Some of it is going to be a little destructive to their mana base, so then we counter or follow that up with a few destroy target land effects. Seismic Spike over Stone Rain, mainly because this should only cost 2 colorless mana, assuming we have the double red in play, which might be a little bit difficult for the deck, but I figure it's just like a cheaper Stone Rain in most situations. And it's not like we're guaranteed have to turn 3 Stone Rain them. We're going to be turn 2 and turn 3 ramping more often than not. Aftershock seems like a pretty good one because we can hit their land or we can hit their commander. The 3 damage again shouldn't be super relevant. Other interesting cards here. Mold Shambler can be kicked for 6 again and hit a land or any non-creature permanent, which is pretty good. Reclaiming Vines can hit a land, and artifacts and enchantments, just creeping mold. So we've got lots of ways to be annoying to their mana base, who, I guess at M5 we have another one, destroy land, search library for a basic. So this is just one volley acid moss, but we can search for things other than forests. Oh, this card's pretty cool. Thresher Beast fits the plan. Whenever it becomes blocked, they have to sack a land, so it's like basically like 5 mana 4/4 unblockable in most games. Other than that, let's see. We still have some ramp at 5 mana. So yeah, I guess this makes sense because we want to be able to provide threats, but we also want to have infinite ways to get to 8 mana. So Silverglade Elemental puts a forest into play when you cast it. I really like these 2 cards, Lava Flow and Fissure. They're the same thing. Except Fissure has the can't be regened clause, but hits a creature or a land, so again, kill their commander or something big if they played it, or just keep nuking their mana base, and then they basically can't do anything. Vandalize is good because you can get a nice 2-for-1. Nate got me with a 2-for-1 with this. He killed a land and a artifact land, like a Great Furnace or Seed of Synod. You can also kill mana rocks. So that's another sweet 2-for-1 potential. Emrakul's Hatcher, another way to create a bunch of spawns to get the ramp going. I like Kozilek's Channeler was almost an inclusion at 5 mana, but didn't quite get there. I like Elvish Aberration instead. It's a little bit bigger, can be searched for. In our suite of 6+ converted mana costs, we have Fierce Empath, which can find Elvish Aberration to, again, tap for a bunch of mana. And Vedalken Dismisser, which is, again, just locking them out of their draw step, just not a very, very fair card. Ether Snipe to return any permanent to their hand. Also very strong with returning Maelstrom Wanderer to our hand, in case he gets hit with pacifism effect, and just casting him for a second time if he is somehow on the board but answered in some way is really good. Card advantage. Continuing up, Fault Grinder. We still have more than land destruction. 4/4 for 7, kill a land is pretty good. Other finishers here, Maul Splicers, just 3 creatures for 1, which is solid. Pretty good card to bounce as well. Jungle Weaver, which cycles in a pinch in the 2 mana slot, or can be searched up late game. Talked to Nate a little bit after the game too that we played, and he said Flying and Talrend are kind of the weaknesses for a deck like this. So just having a big creature with reach seems pretty solid. Other cards that you'll see that should help with the Talrand matchup are Claws of Wirewood. This card will single-handedly win the game if it resolves, and it cycles in the early game if need be, so it's never truly blank. Croissant Tusker, another really good ramper on 3 mana and cycler, and just a big dumb idiot creature if we need one. And Ulamog's Pressure on 8, don't really think we need just a Eldrazi Devastator, like an 8/9 trample. This card's just better just because it annihilates. It's like Bane and Balaged, but just better. No real processing for Ruin Processor, and this card's just the most disruptive. So other things to consider with this deck, disrupting them, while we build our mana base, is that we want to stay ahead on cards, so we play all the best card advantage cards that we can find. So we're running Treasure Cruise, Rush of Knowledge. Again, some of these cards Nate might not have been playing, because I just took some that I saw from him and added a few. But this card I did not see him play, but I think he might. It just seems so sick, like 5 mana, draw 8 cards if you have your commander in play. Can't possibly lose. Mole Drifter, obviously, Griff Vanguard, pretty sweet ones to hit off of Cascade. Amass the Components, draw 3. Deep Analysis, draw 2, 4C. Discard 4, draw 2. Sift, draw 3, discard 1. Similar to Amass, really good. And Compulsive. So again, just ways to not, go totally blank. Since a lot of our deck is air, just lands and mana ramp, we want to make sure that we're churning through our deck as fast as possible. We did talk about sweepers, and the only 2 sweepers that I could find in these colors were the same 2 that he mentioned. Bloodfire Infusion, you enchant a creature you control for 3 mana, then you pay 1 more red, you sack your creature, and it deals damage to all other creatures equal to its power. And since we have a lot of big fatty boom booms, it's pretty much a good way to wrath the board should we need it. Apparently, again, it's just good against decks that could potentially swarm you, since we don't have much of a early game presence, nor do we really run any removal. So we want to be able to catch up if possible. So Bloodfire Infusion does that for us, and so does Swirling Sandstorm, again with all of our fetch lands and our ways to put ramp spells into the graveyard and cycle and stuff. Should be pretty good at getting to threshold, otherwise it does nothing, but 5 damage to every creature should be pretty solid. So that's ways to sweep the board. Other ways to just do a little bit of disruption. I guess we've got here just one more. We didn't mention Desecration Plague, just because having answers to enchantments could be good. Things like Oblivion Ring and whatnot. Other than that, another draw card effects. I guess Striped Bears is just a functional Shaman of Spring, but that bear is pretty cool looking. 4 mana 2/2 draw card. Kavu Climber 5 mana 3/3 draw card. Just good hits off of Cascade and ways to keep churning through the deck. Again, another 1 mana cycler here in interaction with flyers, because again we're weak to flyers apparently. So got that Deadshot Minotaur. That covers most things. Capsize is just a busted repeatable effect. Again, if we're ramping and we can capsize every turn, there's a lot of good creatures we can get back with our deck again. Like something like Deadshot Minotaur can kill any creature. 3 toughness flyer, which is pretty common. You can get back Maul Splicer to make more guys. Get back Fault Grinder to kill more lands. Get back Dismisser. There's all sorts of things we could get back, or we could just keep bouncing their lands or bouncing their permanents. Bounce our own Wanderer. Create all sorts of value. That's kind of what the Faithful's for. Again, we're not really trying to attack with a 2/2. At first I thought, why don't we just play Mana War? But we're really just trying to be the most mana efficient as possible. And a defensive creature is fine, since we could use the help with like early defense. It's possible I should be including Wall of Roots. I'm gonna have to look that one up real quick. I think that one's common. I don't think I own any. Yeah, I do not own any. That card's gotta be one of the best cards ever in this deck, so add that to my wish list real quick. So it looks like I have a cut to make. But yeah, that's what I really like about this Pauper Commander format. You'll think of cards like that on the fly, and the decks are always changing. I could always see different effects like Wickerbow Elder. I really wanted to get into this deck. Just didn't quite find room for it, so I don't know. There's a lot of interesting choices, but that's pretty much the gist of the deck. We're gonna win by killing all their stuff, drawing a lot of cards, and playing against the games that I played, Nate. It was very, very, very unfair in that he was doing things every turn, and eventually I got to a point where I couldn't cast a single card. So yeah, so that's the deck tech. We're looking at Maelstrom Wanderer for week 3. We're in the 1-1 bracket, so not really sure what we're up against, but if we face the mirror, we'd probably want the Cartographer to get our lands back. We'd probably want, so I would think counter spells would potentially be good, like Negate and Envelop, but that's so narrow and niche. That's why I really wish this format had like a 15 card sideboard, because it is best 2 out of 3, and the sideboarded games do count. You could play 2 sideboarded games, so those games are more important, but you're stuck with your main deck choice, so it's kind of like you're all in. But yeah, so I'll work on making a cut here. Wall of Roots seems, I think, really good. You can ramp a lot with it, you can bounce it, you can block with it. That makes me think too, like Overgrown Battlement's pretty good then in the same sense, but it doesn't fix. So some of these cards that don't fix the color maybe are why they're not as good. And we don't really need Wall of Roots mana on our own turn because we don't really have too many instants. So yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, here's one last card. Didn't mention about anything. Let's see. Show that preview pane. Where's that preview pane? Is it hiding? Let's see. There it is. Okay. This card, Churning Eddy. Turn target creature and target land. So again, really just tempo positive. If we're nuking their lands, but they're still making land drops, or if they play a bounce land, this card seems really busted. Also can bounce our own creatures for value as well. So yeah, that covers most every card here. Game plan is just, really annoying. Hope it works. On second look, doesn't look like we're going to need Wall of Roots. But if they were really aggressive and we needed the block, I would potentially play it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for round 3 of the Pauper Commander League.